What would prevent the Patriots from getting back to the Super Bowl at this point?
Well, I think first things first, we should talk about the relationship that they do have, because there's only a few people who really know about their relationship, and I would say all the rest of it is just a bunch of just media hype, trying to get some insight and just trying to say things from a sensationalism standpoint because maybe they don't understand the relationship. Tom Brady said a couple very, very critical things. And I haven't really heard him say this about many people. He says this about Tom House. Well, first of all, I'll tell about his dad, how his dad was his role model and everything, and how important he is in his life. He talks about Tom House, how he really changed his throwing motion to be the Tom Brady who he is now and how much respect for him. He talks about his trainer, how much he's changed his thinking and eating and how it's changed his whole career. And he talked about Bill Belichick and him mentoring him. He didn't say coaching. He said he's one of the greatest coaches ever, but he said him mentoring him. Now, Bill Belichick doesn't do that, but for a few people. And Tom Brady is one of the fortunate ones. Like Bill Belichick, he showed up to Randy Moss's Hall of Fame ceremony, surprised Randy. Randy was overcome and even cried, afterwards, because he was really shocked that they came.
And Belichick mentioned when he talked about that when he was back at the facility that there's only so much time, that you can only have so many relationships with a select few guys. Speaking to that point, to where it goes beyond coach-player, he said Randy was one of those guys he had that special relationship with. Tom, obviously, another one of them.
And Bill has given Tom the ultimate authority from a player as far as running meetings, saying things to coaches, changing plays. Like what he's been able to do, they've been able to do together. It's been a phenomenal relationship. I've said this all along when people would come. We'd have a report, and I'd say, listen, this relationship is a great relationship between two tremendous competitive people. And it's worked for them. We try to tear it down, but I think that's the most important thing. As long as they're on the same page, and it is about winning. Tom knows I'm not going to select the players. I'm not going to be able to determine how much money they're going to make. And Bill's going to do things a certain way. This is his team, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And that's how they're going to win. If anybody ever comes between that relationship, I believe that will affect them even in a bigger way than anything we've ever seen out of New England, compared to a player being let go, a player being traded, a player being benched. That relationship right there, every time, if they stay together, they got a chance to win every game.
And it's only because of those two that the Patriots, as presently constituted, are in the Super Bowl conversation, the Super Bowl favorites. To circle back to Jenna's question, there was a period of time when they won their first 3 Super Bowls. Obviously, Belichick was a huge part of that, and by Super Bowl III, Brady was one of the leading contributors to that. But you had All-Pro, a couple Hall of Fame defensive players. You had a really quality roster. When we get here in 2018, and we just look at 2018 Patriots versus 2017 Patriots. All right, so their offensive line is worse, right? They lost Nate Solder. You look at the players, offensive line is worse. The wide receiver room is worse. You lost Brandon Cooks. You lost Danny Amendola. Now you will be adding Julian Edelman, who you didn't have last year, but not for the first 4 games of the season. I would argue the defense, which was shaky at best last year, didn't get better by losing Malcolm Butler. And let's not forget that at this moment last year, the single best quarterback room was in New England. We learned by midway point through the season, the Patriots didn't have 1 starting quarterback on the roster. They didn't have 2. They started the year with 3. Jacoby Brissett might not be a super high-quality starting quarterback, but he showed he could start games in Indy. Jimmy Garoppolo's got $120 million to be a starter in San Francisco.
Both guys were traded for. Now, people thought Garoppolo was worth a lot more. I mean, I don't know why Belichick gave the deal to San Francisco, but it lets you know the depth for which no other team could have had all 3 other quarterbacks traded for less than a third rounder.
The Patriots started the year with 3 quarterbacks who, by the end of the year, all 3 of them started multiple games for 3 different teams in the league. So, how can are the Patriots, what will prevent them bringing it back to the Super Bowl? Not enough talent. Like, period, point blank. Like, roster-wise, remove the head coach and Brady, this team is worse. Where did they get better from 17 to 18. Running backs, maybe. They spent the pick on Stoney Michel. They add Jeremy Hill. They lose Dion Lewis. But aside from that, where are the Patriots better than they were last year?
But it's almost, to your point, what you're saying is as long as there's a relationship between these two guys,
yes,
it almost doesn't matter who else the Patriots have and what their personnel is and who they've gained or lost in the offseason, because these two guys are the foundation with which this team kicks off the season and moves forward.
They really are. They have to be together, but this is a league about talent. As long as those two are on the same page, they will have an opportunity. But this year, I believe it's as hard as they are not the overwhelming. Let's go back 365 days. New England Patriots
we'd ever seen.
We had never seen someone
It was
favorite.
like 36 to some crazy number or something.
No, Nick will look up Vegas. We'll call Vegas, see what they're saying, and Vegas is not saying the same thing because this roster.
They are still the favorites to make the Super Bowl, and a lot of that has to do with the AFC versus NFC. And see, you've talked a lot about that. One of the things players on the Patriots, remove Tom Brady, that rubs them the wrong way about what shows like this do is we act too often like Tom Brady and Belichick and 52 guys off the street could do what they do.
That's what they hate.
That we don't give the other players.
They don't care if you call them the evil empire. They don't call them cheaters and everything. They don't even care about that kind of stuff. But this rubs them the wrong way.
And so what I'm saying here is actually going against that. I am trying to give credit to how important the other guys on the roster are. And while they were awesome last year, they lost their first game of the year to the Kansas City Chiefs. They nearly lost that game to the Steelers, and we saw them have to fight and claw to beat the Jags in the AFC Championship game, and then they lost the Super Bowl. And I don't look at this team and say, you got better by losing Nate Solder. You got better by trading Brandon Cooks away. You got better by losing Malcolm Butler and Danny Amendola. This is not me coming on TV saying the Pats, they're finished, the run is over. But it is saying they are not in the giant pole position they were last year. When going into the season, as you mentioned, they were the biggest preseason favorite. The discussion last year was, can they go undefeated? Right? Remember that? It was, can they go undefeated? Because they had spent, you looked at them last year, you said, oh, they added Brandon Cooks. They added this talent. They went all in on the season.
Yeah, I believe they're going to miss Malcolm Butler. And I know in 4 seasons, Malcolm Butler with Bill Belichick, he won them 1 Super Bowl. This is what I can guarantee you. Whoever plays that position, they are not going to win them 1 Super Bowl single-handedly the way Butler did. And I believe the thing people aren't talking about is Matt Patricia. 14 years of service to Bill Belichick. You got a lot of football intel. He's a good teacher of the game of football. And I believe when you try to replace him, you do lose something. Now, they brought Josh McDaniel back, so they get the whammy on both sides. Offense and defensive coordinator, but Matt Patricia's ability to teach Bill Belichick's brand of football, I believe, will affect a defense that doesn't have a lot of talent. And last season, the reason why they lost the Super Bowl was because of that bad defense.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.